Okay. Hello. How y'all doing? So, I've been on a little hiatus for a little while. And in spite of that, I'm still always coming back to, what am I going to do next? What do I need to do? What do I need to write? But I do need a break. Just a little one. But I thought it would be a really good idea, and this has always interested me and other authors as well, is what is the story behind a story? Where did the story come from? What was the inspiration and whatnot? So I thought I'd start doing those, because some of them actually do have a kind of an interesting story behind them. Especially my very first story, but that'll be for another one. Today, I wanted to discuss the story I wrote last year called Feline. Now, if you haven't listened to that story, I would stop and go listen to that. The link will be in the description down below, and take a listen to that. Just because there's a bit of a surprise to it. The artwork to it probably gives it away as far as where this story came from. So, but spoiler alert, so if you want to listen to it, I would stop now and go listen to it and then come back to this. But, so, yeah. So, Feline that one was a very difficult one to write. I mean, well, it is basically, it is a fan fiction from the movie Alien. And it is the cat's story as events were unfolding in the movie. So how do you make a story out of that? And it's something I've always wanted to do, but I made it, if I was going to do it, I'm going to do it really good. So it took about a year to write this story, to really get the plot together. And at first I was really worried because I thought it was kind of boring. Because I start off with giving a history as far as how we developed, our space travel and motivations behind that. And then going into explaining, well, why would you have a cat on a spaceship? So I kind of built this. I had to build this world and build this history, so I could get to get to a point where it's like that made sense. And so that actually took up a good portion of the first part of the story. But it's not till the second part of the story where things really, really get suspenseful. There are two stories that really gave me inspiration and how I wanted to model the character of the cat. And I've actually done narrations of both of these stories. The first one is by Rudyard Kipling, Rikki Tikki Tavi, which is about a mongoose who defends his garden against two cobras. And so the imagery, I really was influenced by the imagery of that story, which is written in the early 1900s. And, just the valiant attributes of the character and the dedication he has to protecting his surroundings and the ones he loves. And then the second one was called The Price by Neil Gaiman. And I'll put descriptions to those stories too. Those actually, so I did those about 2 years ago, and even till today, they still get consistent views. I mean, people still watch these things. Oh, like it's strange, where you usually release something and it has its moment in the light and then it kind of fades away. No, these are are usually kind of the top of my views every time I check, which is kind of interesting. But if you haven't listened to the Price, I highly recommend. If you get through the story without tears in your eyes, you're not human. And so again, there'll be links in the description of the stories that I did. And of course, I do all the artwork and I do all the graphics. I'm self-taught. That's why you can tell that it's not somebody professional, but it adds to the story. At least it adds to the characteristics of my channel, because I like to make it. I try to make mine different and something unique that not everybody else is doing. You can listen to it. Read a story to billowing smoke, but this is goddamn YouTube. There should be some visuals to it. And so that's what I do. And that's why it takes me a long time to do these stories sometimes, because a lot of times I don't know what I'm doing, and it's just like trial and error, and mostly error. But it's fun, and it adds a little bit of flavor, and it's a different take on a lot of stories, and that's why I like doing it. This one was really special. I mean, this is a movie that as a kid I just fell in love with. One other person has done a narration of this story. And I'm going to put a link to that story in the description down below as well. It was Dr. Creepin. Amazing. you get chills down your spine listening to him read this story, and he embodied everything that I was feeling when I wrote this. So again, that's another one just to really check out. In a fantasy dream world, I would love to have done like my visuals with his voice, and it would just been a perfect mesh. It was phenomenal. And you look at the comments, and after what 30, this movie's 30 years old, Alien, people still know who this character is. They know his name. They are in love with this character, and it was just like really cool to see that people just like, because when I write these fan fictions, and I've done a couple, not many, but I've done a couple, I don't blatantly tell you that this is the character, this is what it is, this is what it, I'm very vague, so that if you're a fan of the story of the movies, you know exactly what I'm talking about and what this is. And if you don't know the movie, it's just a really cool little science fiction story that it can be a standalone. So it has the best of both worlds. And that's what I think is really cool about this. But people like, oh my God, is this from the movie Aliens? Oh my God, is that Jones? Oh my God! And people know who this cat is after all these years. They know his name more than they know the other people. So and it was a really cool little project, and I'm glad it turned out the way it did and got as much success as it did, or at least positive feedback. It's one of those ones that I still would consider really special, and so do a lot of people, I think. So if you haven't heard it, check it out. And I hope you enjoyed this. If it's something that's enjoyable, or if it's something that people like, I'll do some more. I have some really cool behind the scenes on a lot of my stories, and so I'll try another one. Okay, y'all take care, and remember, in space, no one can hear you meow.